build it, he will.
It's the Skinny on Sports Podcast with Aaron Cow.
I throw balls far. You want good words? Data language.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Cow with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
I'll start things off as Aaron is walking in. Welcome in to Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, 1240 AM, KADS, the sports animal. I sound a little hot. I never know how high to turn myself when I'm not on that side, especially on this mic. Happy Wednesday feels like Tuesday, which is a nice thing to wake up to, especially that in rain as well. Aaron, you there?
I'm over the rain.
You're you're done with the rain.
I'm over the rain.
You're done with it. It's official. It's official. Now you can complain about the rain.
I'm over it.
Messing with plans, is it?
Messing with, year-long plans.
Yeah.
Coming up on Friday and Saturday. I'm over it.
That is true, because there's like a better chance of rain
I'm looking here.
this weekend than there was like last night.
Looking here, it says 40 on some Friday, then 70 Friday night, then 60 on Saturday. That's just not great. Not,
Will you be okay with it if it came at night like it did last night?
Absolutely. What happened last night? Absolutely. It's not during the day.
Not during the day.
No.
I mean, the worst it could do is just make it car path only. That's it.
It's not the worst it could do. It could rain the whole thing out.
Well, at night?
Oh, you mean if it rained at night?
Yeah, you wake up to blue sky and some wet
That would be fine.
fairways. That's fine.
You know what today is?
Well, like I said, it's Wednesday, which is nice because I thought it was Tuesday for about an hour this morning.
With the weather. This is weather related. You know what today is?
What is today?
It's the 10-year anniversary of the historic El Reno tornado.
Yeah.
It remains the largest recorded tornado in U.S. history, 2.6 miles wide at its widest.
A crazy fact about that one, I think it was designated as an EF3 because people tend to forget that means that rating comes from how much it damages or destroys, right? Unfortunately, it did damage a lot, but unfortunately, it did lead to some fatalities. But yeah, you'd think something like that. Oh, that's just automatic EF5.
At times it was, but I think like you're saying, the overall course of it,
right?
Yeah, it was wild. It was not only that, but
that.
it was kind of it was an odd the way it moved. And that was what led to some of those fatalities from long time storm chasing people. That it just didn't work out very well. But I saw that pop up this morning, thinking about the weather. What do you got on your mind today?
Well, I almost thank you, by the way, for the burrito. I almost waited until we went on air to eat it, to let everybody enjoy it.
That'd have been a Sean Wilson move.
It would have.
To eat on the air. I wonder if everybody enjoys that when that happens.
They're still listening. That feels like I'm on EE again.
So what do you think about the debt ceiling, Jared?
I don't know. Insert comment in the middle of it. President Brandon finished the comment. And I just gave you the typical answer. We don't want to go there.
Why not?
We can get in trouble. I feel like we can get in trouble.
Okay. All right, coming up on the show today.
Yeah, what do we got?
Looks like there's a chance the realignment wheels are spinning.
That's true.
Back here to the Big 12. Colorado is now a betting favorite to be a Big 12 member. Who else comes? Ultimately, what does the Big 12 look like in, say, 4 years? And really and truly, I think we need to bring that timeline down to 2024. because there's no reason, for it not to. The SEC having their spring meetings. Big discussion, big controversy about how many conference games to play. So we can kind of hash that out. What are the advantages or disadvantages to an 8-game conference schedule or a 9-game conference schedule? Oklahoma and Texas will not get to vote on this because they aren't officially members of the SEC, but they will be in the room voicing opinion. And then if it was you, what would you like to see? How many conference games do you want to be played? Man, Live Golf and PGA versus the PGA just keeps kind of coming up. And I think that's a testament to the fact that Live Golf is gaining a little bit of airspace here. Jack Nicklaus had some comments yesterday that made the Live supporters mad. John Rahm talked about the Ryder Cup and Live Golf and how, some comments there. And so, what ends up happening? At the end of the day, how does this kind of does it ever hash itself out, or is this a conversation that's going to be going on for years to come, or is there some sort of compromise? Is there some sort of change that's able to be made in order to make both sides maybe not happy, but at least coexist as Live continues to either grow or eventually they fizzle out and then none of this matters anyhow? 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. 225-9698. If we have enough time at the end, there's some athletes right now that are being very courageous, and there was one that cowered down. 225-9698. If you're going to be outside the listening area, a couple ways to stay in touch with the show. Log on to kadsam.com or download the Paragon Communications app. The app has it all. It's got radio. It's got the Penny News. It's got Big Elk and Paragon TV. By the way, Penny News, brand new edition, hit the website last night at midnight. Check out the new deals, thepennynews.com. And, of course, the print edition will start to filter out tonight. By tomorrow morning, you can go pick up a free copy of the Penny News just about anywhere you can hear our voice. You got the Skinny on Sports podcast. If you missed the show entirely, check us out anywhere podcasts drop, or our website, kadsam.com, is a foolproof way to do that, because it's posted there each and every day. Hello, Jared.
How are you?
I'm not the greatest, but whatever. It is what it is.
Anything I can do to help?
Not really.
Are we good?
Nope, you're fine.
Is this something I did?
Nope.
All right.
Not at all. Did you have any ball last night?
No, but I was actually at the softball field replacing a sprinkler head, which is an incredible project, just to replace one of them.
You know what I did last night?
What'd you do?
Let's see. I've got all these. If you'll notice, well, it's hard to get all that stuff out from underneath my fingernails. I've got a Band-Aid here, got a cut on my hand here. I'll have some bruising in this area of my forearm. I went down and replaced the batteries in my golf cart.
Yeah.
What a horrible process that is.
Yeah, I bet. I've been working on mine, my gas golf cart.
So there's 4 new batteries, one of which had handles on top.
Right.
I don't know how much extra it was to get the ones with handles on top, but that is a must.
To get those out of there.
To get them in and out more efficiently. And so see, the bad part was, as I started having a little trouble, I went ahead and filled the old ones up with as much, make sure it wasn't like a water issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, you know what that does?
What's that do?
Just makes them heavier to get out of there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So I'm going to be, my lower back is getting a little sore. Like I said, I've got all these little scratches on my hands from just kind of, as you're moving in and out, that space is so confined that it's hard to.
Yeah.
It's hard to be free and clean as you do that. And I scratched off my knuckle here, my middle knuckle. Pretty good hunk out of it. It was bleeding everywhere. But guess what? After a couple of different attempts, it is back running.
Well, good.
Charging. To my knowledge, we didn't have a battery fire in the cart barn that burned everything down last night. So it's looking pretty positive on the old golf cart front at the moment.
Well, good.
Feels good.
That's good. Good job.
Feels very good.
Good job. It
Thank you.
reminds me of my project. I need to give a shout out to Clouds
Clouds Lawn.
Thank you. I don't know their proper name. Clouds Lawn. I needed one little part that I didn't have. I was like, "We'll go check them out. They might help you out." So I went over there. They're not like a retail shop. You know,
Right.
you just can't go in and grab a shopping cart. So I told them what I'm looking for. They came out, got it. So, well, we'll bill you. I mean, it's a little part, maybe an inch long. I said, okay, yeah, I'll pay whatever. No problem. And I got a text that said, hey, boss man said Merry Christmas. We're not going to charge you for that.
Well, very good.
So, well, thank you. I will highly recommend you guys. They're very helpful.
Very good.
Helped out the Canute softball field over there. Helped us out. Because we were having a leak, which was creating a hole, not in the field of play, but on the foul side, inside the fence. And bad deal. You don't want a kid dropping in there and twisting an ankle or worse. So working on that to alleviate that, to stop that from happening. So that's what I did. I had to carry, you mentioned carry buckets of dirt to fill that hole up. Yeah, 'cause I couldn't drive over there, you know. Anywho, pretty night though, and then wake up to some rain middle of the night.
Yeah, it was about, I don't know, 3:30.
So that's the time
I heard
when
it start raining.
came through.
Yeah, I heard it start. It rained really hard for just I don't know, not long. But it was. I mean, it did rain really hard there for a little bit, and then it kind of fizzled out. A little bit of lightning, a little bit of thunder, but nothing overly serious.
I mean, when I hear it, I check my phone. Is it severe? Look at the radar. This is good. Heavy rain. That's all it is.
Is that what's on tap today?
I don't know. For some reason, my weather app will not get off of Shawnee, Oklahoma.
Seeing mostly sunny through the day, 30% chance after 1 a.m. I feel like tomorrow, at least out in the Texas Panhandle, is the chance for a little bit more severe weather. You know, here lately, yeah, you're right, in this pattern that we've had over the past, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, there's been very, very, very little severe weather here. There's been some out in the Panhandle. There was last night even up in the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle, as the stuff came from came down from the northwest to the southeast, which is historically not the severe weather route. It's normally southwest to northeast. But it was severe up there, and then once it got kind of down into the middle of the Panhandle and toward western Oklahoma, it fizzled out just into some nice, strong, that's what they call it, a strong thunderstorm, and little lightning, little thunder, rain. It's kind of like what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So,
well,
good stuff. Very good stuff.
Hoping it. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I don't want it to rain during the day. I don't want it to rain during the day tomorrow through Sunday. We got a end of season tournament coming up and regular season games. I'd like to get those in. It just feels like every time we're playing in tournaments or something, we're getting rained out. It's happened twice so far this year. I'd like to finish out a tournament. But I'm not complaining about the rain. You are.
I just said I'm almost over it.
Almost over it.
For a little bit. I'm not asking it to go away for months.
So do you have a contingency plan for
What do you do?
If it rains out, it rains out?
I guess.
Darn.
I guess so. Boy, I'm glad I'm not on the return of that deal. Oof. I don't know how that works. I don't know that it's ever. Since I have been involved by either playing or on the committee like I am now, I can only remember one day where part of it got rained out.
Yeah.
It was years ago. And maybe two. Maybe there have been two, like either. So I know the one time on Friday we played. The morning wave got done. The afternoon wave was, I don't know, 2 or 3 holes, 4 holes, whatever it was in, and then it was just done. You know, thunderstorms come through and it's, time-wise, you don't have time and, a bunch of rain and all that. So then it was just one, but then the next day was fine. So this is a little bit different where it looks like, who knows?
Yeah.
This could be an interesting weekend, to say the least, which really kind of stinks because everyone, I think, was looking forward to being able to show off how good the golf course is right now. Of course, the buildings out there that everyone can see, still in, construction phase, obviously, but, there's still plenty of. Yeah, Scotty Kelly. I am. I'm not over it. I just want it to stop for 2 days. I should have phrased that better. It can rain all it wants to, except for, well, not all it wants to, but Friday and Saturday just don't rain. And even if it rained, light rains for just a little bit, that's fine too. I mean, I'm not being Debbie Downer here.
Just not a complete washout.
Just not, yeah. That's all I'm asking for. Don't have thunderstorm after thunderstorm rolling through here. And you know how that happens sometimes.
Yep.
That's all I'm asking. That's it. All right. So the live golf. Did you see what Jack said yesterday?
I did not.
Man, he took
this one. What do you say?
He took a ton of flack for, I think, pretty innocent comments, I would say. I mean, when I read them, I didn't immediately go, "Oh no, Jack's going to get attacked by the live golfers or whatnot." He just essentially said, with what's going on, he doesn't consider, he doesn't really, he's kind of out of sight, out of mind with the live golf guys because they're not on the tour, so he doesn't really consider them to be a part of the golf because it's not the circle he runs in. And he made the comment that they've got, Memorial is this week, the tournament he puts on at his golf course at Muirfield Village, and that he has the best field that he can have, which is all true. But the live golf fans immediately jump on him, say, well, you don't have 2 of the last 3 major winners. My question is, why is it just down to 3, the last 3? By the way, one of those 2 was on the PGA Tour when he won that major, Cam Smith, last year at the Open. And then later on, defected over to live. So it's really just Brooks Koepka out of the last 8. And 6 of those are there. So I think that there's so much twisting of words to try to support whatever view you have on live and PGA. Some people are staunchly on the PGA side, some people are staunchly on the live side, and some people are just kind of hanging out in the middle going, I can't wait to see what happens.
That's me.
I kind of am too. I mean, by all accounts that we've received, the live event in Tulsa was a really cool thing. Mm-hmm. And so it all just almost seems a little bit manufactured. And at the end of the day, do people really, does Brandel Chamblee really care that much about the live golf hatred that he portrays on Golf Channel? Does he really care that much, or is it just manufacturing this to keep it in the news cycle to keep golf relevant without who out there playing?
That's a good point. And back to the Golf Channel thing, it's clear that they're instructed.
Oh my gosh,
it's clear, guys. This is live bad, PGA good, and this is how we're going to portray it. But I'm with you. I don't think they truly believe that. I think the majority of golf fans is like what you and me are like, is just sit back and see what happens. And I'm kind of leaning towards, I kind of alluded to this a couple of weeks ago with Jim about how Live's not going to overtake PGA. I understand that, but if there's a live event versus a PGA event that's not a major, I'm going to watch the stars. I'm going to watch the names. I could care less if it's PGA or live. I just want to watch good golf, fun golf, and intriguing golf. And I get that a little bit with live over these non-major PGA events. But when it's a major, you're darn tootin' I'm watching the major.
Well, and especially, here's the deal.
But the field matters. It's who's
it
playing. And with what this Memorial's coming up, those names you mentioned that will be there, or that I will watch. The field matters. I could care less if it's PGA or live. It's who's playing against who, who's paired with who's in the running on cut day, who's all that. That's what gets my attention.
Yeah, and the PGA Tour kind of did this to themselves in the race to try to keep up money wise with what live the purses and the winner's check and all that. So they created these designated events, which guess what, the Memorial is, and then they created these non-designated events to where you see the field is so much weaker than what it would have been without any changes. And that's on it's just in that it was like a ready, fire, aim situation where the PGA Tour was not prepared to make the changes that they made when they made them. It happened so fast that they've almost they've almost went kind of the live model in a lot of ways. Like Colonial is a golf course that when you listen to the players talk, they all love playing that tournament. And that's the only reason they got some of the guys in the field last week that they got is because of the golf course itself. But it also gets pushed back on the back burner because it doesn't have that designated status. And that's all. That has nothing to do with live golf. The PGA Tour did that to themselves. And so when, like last week, when it is a live event going up against a non-designated event, guess what? The PGA Tour is going to look like the lesser, unless it's a perfect storm. Unless it would have been Max Homa versus Scotty Scheffler down the stretch. Live is going to look more enticing field-wise because of the guys that they have playing. And it's kind of the beauty of what they've done is with just 48 guys and the makeup of those 48, it's going to be really hard for a live event to go down the stretch and not be fairly intriguing with who's up at the top of the leaderboard.
Right.
On the PGA Tour, especially in the non-designated events, it's going to be kind of hard to get the perfect storm.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to see what will happen. John Rahm came out and the discussion immediately started about the Ryder Cup as soon as Brooks Koepka finished off the PGA Championship. That moved him to number 2 in the points. And, how is that all going to be handled with that event being it's just kind of up in the air with all the tours and how that's going to work. And Rahm, who has staunchly defended the PGA Tour from the word get-go. I mean, outside of Rory McIlroy, he has been absolutely at the forefront, the face of the tour. Ryder Cup isn't the same thing in his mind. Because the Sergio Garcia question has been asked, and him being on live, and he said, are you really telling me that the greatest Ryder Cup player of all time, if capable of playing, can't? What are we doing here? And I think a lot of the fans are in that same boat. If it comes to a Ryder Cup, if it comes to the majors, everybody wants to see the best players play. Period. End of story. And nobody gives a damn what tour they're playing on.
Exactly.
Give me Cam. Phil and the Masters. Koepka. Or on the other side, Rory or JT or Spieth or whoever. Nobody cares. No, they don't. You know what they put beside their name? like the flag of the country they're in. They don't put LIV or PGA.
That's right. Yeah.
Nobody cares. Give me the best players in those high-profile major events, and I think everybody will be happy. What, in your mind, how is there ever kind of any sort of reconciliation? Is there ever what?
Sorry, I just got breaking news.
What happens with this stuff?
Okay, as a fan, what I want to see is straight up, I'll pay pay-per-view for it, PGA versus LIV.
So like a Ryder Cup style match.
Yeah. That's what I want to see happen. I think that would be fun for me. But what I think we're seeing what's happening. I think we're going to see guys play the LIV events because it's fun, it's one round less, it's more money. They wear shorts. I mean, all that stuff. But they're going to come back for the major. I think that's what it is.
They just have more tours.
Yeah.
You have the LIV Tour, you have the DP World Tour, you have the Corn Ferry, you have the PGA.
Yeah.
So do you ever think?
Listen, it'll
do you ever
balance
see
out.
LIV guys getting to play on a PGA Tour event again? Do you think that animosity eventually goes away?
Yes, it does. Because what I just said, I think it all kind of just balances out. They're going to learn to live with it. Learn to live with LIV. I think that's what's going to happen. I think it just balances out. Or one of two scenarios. It balances out, they learn to live with it, and everything I said would happen, or the LIV just goes away. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it sure doesn't seem like that's happening.
And it's not happening. I thought this was going to be kind of the version of the first and second version of the XFL. We'll get a couple years of it, then it's just going to go away. It's just not going to work. What's working? So I think the scenario will be they learn to live with it. We get more of those guys are going to play those LIV events when it's convenient for them, like the travel's less or more money, all that stuff. And then the majors are always going to be the big dogs. They're going to be the majors, and you're going to get those fields that you expect year in and year out.
Yeah, it's quite frankly, there's no reason for those LIV guys to even consider going back to the tour if they can play in the majors.
Exactly.
There's no sense in it.
Now, what would make me worry, and it will never happen, is what if a guy says, you know what? The purse over here for the LIV event is a lot bigger than this U.S. Open. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because the prestige of winning those things is bigger than
that's right.
The LIV event.
The one concern, if you're a LIV guy, I don't think that they're concerned about being able to play in them. You know what I mean? Like that was a thing at the very first. Is will they be able to play these majors? Will they even be able to qualify for the events? I think that part of the discussion, I believe, is over. They're in if they're in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The problem is going to be, can they get in? Because the tour has not complete control, but they've got they shake a big stick when when the official world golf rankings are concerned. And so, like Koepka wins the PGA. He goes to the LIV event this week in DC in top 10s, and he falls a spot in the official world. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like our dark horse game, we're gonna have to make that number way more than top 25 because we'll pick Brooks Koepka every single time. Because he's gonna be able to be in the quote unquote dark horse every major because of the way that the world golf rankings. So I think that's the next hurdle maybe to cross for LIV Golf to stay relevant and even become more attractive to some other guys is that the official world golf rankings, the points that you amassed by playing on the LIV Tour get better, you just get more points. That way you can be able to play that tour and still qualify to play the majors with the ease that you can do it on the tour. It may never be equal because of size of fields and that kind of thing, mm-hmm. but the strength of the fields in the LIV Golf versus the strength of the fields in the non-designated tournaments, LIV Golf wins that every time because of the quality with the quantity that they have.
Right.
I'm actually I'm pretty surprised how quickly it feels like this has changed a little bit.
There was a lot of vitriol for Live when it first came in, and
I
now
know.
there's more understanding. And I think that's why I answered your question like that. I think it's learning to live with it. I think it's just
well, and the thing is, I think the PGA Tour allowed it to be a better product when it goes up against the non-designated events. And
Right.
then people get to see that and go, wait a minute, what are we doing here?
I think that what they had best going for them was like this sense of trying not to reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean? And listening to the people. That's everything we heard about the Tulsa event was this feels like your hometown tournament.
Right.
You get the music going, they're wearing shorts, everyone's having fun, but they're still playing golf and playing golf at a high level.
Yeah, and a question on the text line, what happens if the Saudis just move on to another point of interest or another project? I mean, the reason
it is what it is.
Yeah, but the reason we're talking about this is because, in the last couple of weeks, they've come out, to make it, they're not doing that. They're not going anywhere. And even increasing the schedule a little bit, looking for different venues. They're about to go play at Valderrama. That is one of the greatest golf courses in the world over in Spain. It's hosted Ryder Cups.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the quality of what they're playing is pretty outstanding. And I think that to see what happened at Tulsa, the crowds at D.C. look pretty good. It wasn't as sparse as those first couple, that we saw last year. Mm-hmm. And so it feels like it's gaining steam. And I think that in turn allows the Saudis to continue on because they're starting to at least not lose everything. If that's even a worry to them with all the money that they have. But surprised it's happened this fast to where there seems like the acceptance of the Live. It's happened faster than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And I wonder what players on the tour are starting to maybe have that same thought, and if we don't see some bigger names leaving even again.
Yeah.
Hanging out here on a overcast, cool, nice Wednesday morning. It is,
why was I fixing a sprinkler head when we don't need to use it?
It is what it is, Jared. As we know,
they could stop.
Mother Nature can shut off the valve at any point.
Yeah.
All right, so the SEC is having their spring meetings this week down in Destin, Florida. I tell you what, that may be one of the biggest hang on a minute. It's only better than the XFL because of the inlet. Now, see, I don't agree with that at all. It's better than the XFL because it's got world-class players. Talking about Live.
Right, if
the XFL didn't have Cam Smith and Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau.
Well, that would be like, let's say Aaron Rodgers decides to go over to the XFL instead of the Jets.
Right. That's the difference. The money helps, obviously. Don't get me wrong.
Sure, it does.
But
I know what he's saying.
The money attracted those players. There's no doubt. But the product is so much more. The product is, if you watch it, it's not only equal, but in some weeks it's better than the main thing.
Well, a fine example was when it was in Tulsa, when you had your playoff at the Live versus who down in Dallas. So that.
Yeah, there's never been, there's not an XFL team or teams where you go,
but
they could be in the playoffs.
Second part of that text is the real question: can it build until it's viable by itself? That's a good question. I don't know. Can it do that? Where the Saudis aren't funding it, where merch and ticket prices and all that stuff. I don't know. Sponsorships.
It's all about TV.
It's all about sponsorships and TV.
TV. If it can,
that's a great question.
If it can build to where it's not on the CW and it's actually
It's not preempted by Family Feud.
You know, it happened again the other day.
Are you kidding me?
But it did it, and then it went right back.
Someone made a phone call. Hey, turn it back.
We're sitting there because, you know, after it happened the first time, it came out PGA, I guess the week of the PGA, that no, that's not going to happen anymore. Well, we're sitting there. Harold Varner's kind of coming up the last hole with the lead, and then Steve Harvey's on again. I'm like, oh, my gosh, you got to be – but it was like 10 seconds, and then it was back. American TV is the key. That's 100% correct.
Yeah. Get off the CW. Get on.
Get on a major network.
I guess Big Four, whatever.
That's
get one
right.
of those.
And you wonder, you know,
who's going to cross that line?
You wonder who would do it. You know, Fox was in the golf for a little bit with the U.S. Open.
I thought they did a great job with it when they did it.
Could it be them wanting to get back in it? You know, ABC's kind of out of the golf game for the most part now. Is that something that maybe they want to do? But as woke as the people at ESPN seem to be with that tie to ABC and ESPN, I would highly doubt that. But we'll see. That is, I mean, if they can.
Why would Fox get in bed with the Saudis?
Because they all already are. They are. I mean, we all know they are. It's just some of it's out in the open and some of it's not. Which is why the hypocrisy of the PGA Tour is so that's the one thing that bothers me about the tour part of it, because I'm more of a purist of the game.
Yeah.
But
I understand.
But let's not pretend. It's all like sunshine and rainbows with the sponsorship and the off the course stuff with the sponsors and all that kind of thing with the PGA Tour. It's the same thing. It's just different. It's not just front and center. Okay, so this meeting's down in Destin. A big concern and a big talking point, and a vote will happen this week, is how many conference football games will each school play within the SEC once Oklahoma and Texas are there. The two models being discussed are the one that they've always done, which is an 8-game SEC schedule. The newer model would be a 9-game. So here's how this would work. If it's 8, each school would have one permanent rival and then play 7 other games round robin. And it gets back a little bit more toward the divisions, and then you don't get to see everybody as often. As in the 9-game, you would have 3 permanent rivals. And it's your 3 aren't the same as the 3 that are with you, right? It's not like a pod. Those kind of jump around with the 3, and then you play 6 other games, meaning if you're a freshman, a true freshman in 2024, you will play every school in the SEC home and away.
In the 9-game?
In the 9-game. You'll play everybody in 4 years. Right now, it's like every 10 or 12 it comes around.
Yeah.
I think Georgia and Alabama played in 2008 and 2009, and they didn't play again until like 2019 and 2020 because of the way that the divisions are. So it's trying to get away from that. And it's just how off the surface, which one of those is the most enticing to you?
The 9-game.
Why?
Well, for 2 reasons. One that you just said, that it would help as a conference recruit players, keep players in the SEC when you can tell them you get to play everybody by the time you're done, which is rare. I mean, for someone to stay, with the transfer portal and early entry NFL, all that stuff. But still, it's a recruiting tool, and it just makes the conference better as a whole. And it makes it better that you get 9 quality opponents, even the Vanderbilts of the world. I'd rather be playing Vanderbilt than South Alabama or, Middle Tennessee State in September. Does that make sense? So the quality of play and all that. I'd like the 9 schedule.
Yeah, I mean, the arguments against it, the arguments for the 8 is it's easier to get bowl eligible because you can replace a conference game with a nobody. Mm-hmm. And that gets you closer to the 6-win threshold that it currently takes to make a bowl game.
But outside of bowls that matter, does anybody care?
Of course, nobody cares. But what does it do? It keeps people's jobs.
Yeah, I guess you could put that on your.
It does.
I made the team bowl eligible. I got them bowl eligible.
Yeah. We've gone to 8 bowls in a row or whatever it is.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just.
I got them there. A lot of them opted out, but I got them there.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Oklahoma last year, you'd be damn glad that it was an 8-game schedule instead of a 9, or you wouldn't have gone to a bowl for the first time since '98 or what have you. Yeah. With the way the season went, so that's one of the things that's definitely on the minds of the schools. What you'd almost say maybe lesser schools, the ones the Vandy's or whoever.
Yeah, I could see that's why they would lean
trying to be able to get to 6-6 or 7-5, which will be the difference in keeping your job and not. But I don't see any way that the networks are going to allow them to have 8 games because of the inventory they're going to have to fill with the new TV deals. The networks are going to want to see another conference game and not the Citadel versus Alabama.
In November.
Yeah. Or, UCO versus Oklahoma in November or whatever it might be. That's just not what they're going to want to see.
That'd be wild.
And it's pretty interesting. Greg Sankey was the SEC commissioner, for those that don't know. He is clearly in favor of the 9-team model and said as much. But he took an interesting approach to one of his reasons why. And he used SEC baseball and talked about how they have a 30-game conference schedule, which means there's 10 3-game series, and how important that was come Monday. Or Sunday, I guess, on Selection Sunday.
Monday.
It was Monday, right?
It was Monday.
Yeah, okay. When you look at of the 16 regionals, 8 of those are hosted at SEC schools. 10 of the 14 SEC schools are in the 64-team field. And he believes that a big part of that was the competition that's on that schedule due to playing more conference games, and how he thinks that can help when you look at what's coming with the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
And all the metrics that are starting to be used.
It's a great point.
There. So here's how this is going to work. Oklahoma and Texas will be in the room. They will be able to be in the meetings. The discussions of all of this will happen. But they do not get a vote because they are not an official member. So 8.
So it's like they're lawyers.
Kind of, I guess.
They got to persuade the jury.
And I don't know I'm not sure about Texas, but I know on the Oklahoma side, a big part, one of the most attractive things about making this move was having that extra conference game, i.e. having another marquee game on Owen Field for the commerce of it, for the fans, and the enjoyability of the schedule, which, quite frankly, this year, if you look at it, is lacking on your home field. And one other thing that I think probably wins out is rivalries. The SEC schools, the legacy schools that have been there, think about almost every single one of them, and it's multiple rivals.
Yep.
It's Alabama, Auburn, but it's also Alabama, Tennessee.
Correct.
It's Georgia, Florida, but it's also Georgia and Auburn. Florida, Georgia, but it's also Florida and Tennessee. LSU and Alabama. Oh, LSU and Arkansas. And so, and you could go all the way through. The entire conference is like this. And so are those teams that are kind of on the 8-game approach willing to let those long-standing rivalries go?
Well, that's an interesting question because if it's Texas A&M, I'm sure they're going to want Texas to be their rival.
And Texas wants OU.
Right. I mean, sometimes has to give if you do the 8 game, and that.
See, that's where I was going to get. That's where I was going to get to, because although they don't have a vote in this, I think Oklahoma and Texas can speak from experience, both of them, when it comes to what happens losing some of these rivalry games.
Like losing the Nebraska OU game?
Exactly where I was headed on the Oklahoma side. Sure, Oklahoma-Texas stayed. Sure, Oklahoma State stayed. But what is maybe the most historic, when you think of OU, yeah, Texas, but you also think Nebraska immediately jumps to your mind on all those classic games they played for all those years.
Right.
And how important that game was each and every year until it wasn't.
Right. They might give some warning, like, listen, when they went to 12, what was it? Every other year they played? Every 2 years, yeah. And it lost its luster a little bit.
The only reason it did it first because OU was terrible. Then it regained it in 2000 and 2001 because it was for number 1. But then in 03 and 04, or I guess 04 and 05, it kind of went.
And Nebraska went off the cliff, right. And OU skyrocketed, and there was not.
Well, in 05, neither team was very good.
They played in a championship game that was
06, 2010.
OU winning like 21-7 or something.
The last one, the last Big 12 title game with the original members was OU Nebraska. Down in, was it Jerry World or was it in the? It was San Antonio.
Was it?
I mean, I know they played. Taylor Martinez.
One of them was in. Oh, yeah, that was in Dallas.
Yeah.
Or Arlington. Yeah. I remember that
one. One of them was Kansas City. The one you're talking about was Kansas City.
I'm thinking about the Kansas City one.
2006.
I forgot about the Taylor Martinez one.
Yes. That was the last Big 12 title game with all 12 original Big 12 members. I refer to that as the price-making game. Yeah, exactly. But that's who it was. Defense, he had like 4 sacks.
I just remember Taylor Martinez and his shot put throw across the middle, intercepted in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of sealed it.
But I think that is the one thing that Oklahoma and Texas can add to this conversation in support of the 9-game model is, listen, Tennessee, or whoever it might be. I just saw Tennessee on my screen, and so I said them. What are you going to do? What's your choice going to be? Because here's the problem for them. Alabama's choice is Auburn. Right?
I would think so.
So how that's just kind of and that's, to me, one of the biggest parts that make college football as special as it is those games. Those rivalry games.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the more of those you can keep alive, I think is for the betterment of everybody. Not only maybe it's not, because if you go through a rough patch and you're not making bowls, and then it's hard to get back. Maybe that's the whole thought of it. But if you want to look at the good of the game, and it does feel like if there's any conference out there that kind of bands together, it's the SEC. So I would be pretty surprised if it's not a 9-game schedule. But I'm also pretty surprised that it's gotten this far with 8 being in consideration.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens at the end of the week. But question was on the text line. Yes, Oklahoma and Texas will be in the discussion, but no, they do not have a vote. Just 14, and it takes a simple majority. It takes 8 votes either way to approve either of the models that are out there. So something to look forward to at the end of the week as we get set for baseball regionals, the Women's College World Series. Also have this brewing in the background. Little conference realignment. Have you seen who is a betting favorite?
I did.
To be back in the Big 12.
I did. A familiar Big 12 member in Colorado.
Colorado.
That had a little cachet to the conference, get prime time and in the Big 12. But I read or heard that one Deion Sanders has to sign off on it if they want to do it.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, he does. And a big part of why he chose Colorado with what the landscape was he believed that Colorado was going to come back to the Big 12. He wanted him to come back to the Big 12. Why? Because he thought he could get back into Texas. Scott hit it right on the head on the text line.
Oh, with recruiting?
With recruiting. Get Colorado back into Texas because of his connections in the Lone Star State. And that is how you get Colorado back to the powerhouse that it was in the late 80s, early 90s. And that's what Coach Prime believes can happen. That's so interesting that it is Colorado.
And it feels like that, just to finish your thought, it feels like that the Big 12 is on more stable ground right now than the Pac-12.
Oh, 100%. 100%. They've already got their TV deal locked in. Pac-12 is trying as hard as they possibly can not to have to go streaming only and get a network to sign off, and they're having a hard time doing it. I think a big part of why the networks are not taking the bait is because they don't believe that the Pac-12 is going to exist.
Not at all.
And if it does exist, nothing like it is right now.
No.
I think it's interesting that Colorado is the first team back, though. Because of all the teams that left the original Big 12, and we're talking A&M, Nebraska, Missouri, and Colorado, Colorado seemed like the one that would never return. Kind of the liberal hippies of the West Coast.
Well, they felt a little like outliers when they were in the conference.
Exactly. They made sense
to go
to the
Pac-12.
To the Pac-12. Yeah. A lot like A&M made sense to go to the SEC. But now for them to be the ones returning, I think that is so interesting. And that's where I think you're seeing the influence of Prime.
Yeah.
And the fact, not only that, but the administration, the brass there, has his back and believes in what he's doing. You know, I think we've both kind of always thought, okay, he'll jumpstart this deal, get it rolling, and then see you bye. I wonder if this almost signals more of a commitment to Colorado from him than maybe we thought was there in the beginning. With the way that he's completely gutted his team.
To rebuild it
from the bottom up.
A guy that's just going to be there for 2 years doesn't do that.
Right.
You do that. I mean, you do what he's done. And from everything I've heard and read is that the mass exodus of players after the spring game was by design. He said, "You're cut, you're cut." He was Homer Simpson in that episode of The Simpsons. "You're cut, you're cut, you're cut." Got him out of there. So they're going to – that makes sense. You don't commit to a program for 2 years and gut them and then leave them. Makes total sense.
Who else ultimately ends up with Colorado in the Big 12?
I think you stick in the Pac-12, you look west, I think it's someone like Utah and the two Arizonas, which seems like a natural fit. If they're going to defect away from the Pac-12 to find more stable ground, a ship that isn't sinking, like, we have our natural rival right there with Colorado, and we'd be back with BYU. If you're Utah and the Arizonas, they're like, well, kind of in the same region in a way. That's where I think would, because it feels like Oregon and Washington are in cahoots with the Big Ten. Doesn't it feel like that? So yeah, I'd take them off the table for any Big 12 consideration.
Yeah, it does, unless they just can't get there.
Yeah.
And
the Big 12 would gladly take them.
I think so. Well, I know so for sure, but they may be standing there without a chair for this first round, if that makes sense, because they're waiting on that Big Ten invitation offer, whereas the Big 12 is maybe in a little bit faster pace than what the Big Ten would be. Because there's also another thing that's hanging out there, and that is what happens to the ACC. We saw last week or 2 weeks ago those 7 schools, the big major universities in those states, fed up with the lack of money in the contract they signed that runs clear through 2036. So is there possibilities there for the Big Ten that make them want to kind of slow their roll and wait and see if you can get a North Carolina, a Clemson? Notre Dame is still, at some point you would think, is going to have to be in a conference for all this to work the way that it looks like it's headed to. So who knows? I just think I don't disagree with who you said. Those 4 seem like natural, as close to geographic fits as you can have in this landscape of college football, and also provide value. And that's another thing that the Big 12 is able to offer, is concrete numbers that they've gotten from the networks on these deals to say, okay, this team adds this much. These 4 add this, they have those in hand to be able to show those schools that might be worried about the foundation of what the Pac-12 is. They can see them. They know what it is. And so they also know, all at the same time, they also know that this is what we've got to get from a potential Pac-12 deal to make it make sense to stay. I think that's probably the holdup at the moment. It's obvious that they're not getting those figures that they need to stay. Otherwise, we wouldn't be to where we are today.
Yeah.
So the question on the text line is, how many teams will be in the Big 12 in 2 to 3 years?
16.
Is that those 4 added?
Yeah.
So it's 14 this year, take away 2, add 4.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to say it's those 4. I think it's Colorado, then throw in a mystery 3.
Which those 3 make sense.
It makes sense.
I think it's 16 minimum.
Yeah? Think more?
I think there's a chance more because
this commissioner seems so proactive in trying to.
And isn't it crazy? Just like when was the announcement or the leaking of the information with OU Texas? Was that 2021?
2 summers ago.
Okay, so it was 2021. Think about the difference in the stability and the perceived strength of the Big 12 in those 2 years. I mean, at that point, it was dead. Stick a fork in the Big 12. It is over. To, my gosh, if it ends up being 3 major conferences, they're almost clearly in the best place to be the 3rd one, even over the ACC right now. And I think Yormark's a huge, huge part of that.
Oh, sure.
And the upgrade that he is over Bob Bowlesby may be the difference between the Big 12 dying and the Big 12 hanging around as one of the big 3. I mean, it's like some kind of horror movie. Yeah, Lazarus came back from the dead. It's crazy what has happened for the Big 12 here. Yeah. And I don't know that they're ever going to be on equal footing with either Big 12 or the Big 10 or the ACC, but they're going to be pretty close. I mean, the distribution numbers from last year are out, and they're not very far behind the SEC. Now, I realize that conference is about to get a major jump in revenues. But you know what? So would the Big 12. Maybe not to the level, but at least close enough where the disparity isn't so wide that they're not going to be able to compete. It's kudos. Brett Yormark, my goodness.
No, I hope he doesn't take teams just to take schools. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
you don't want to just grab a San Diego State just because you need a 16th team. And what do they really bring to the table other than the San Diego market?
And you've also heard him. It feels like he's more basketball oriented than a lot of people are as well. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll be back.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.
That ball is blistered to right. Way